It wasn't one trade that broke me. It was death by 1,000 small mistakes, spread across 2 long years. 2 years of believing I was one breakout away from turning it all around. 2 years of thinking, I'm so close, only to blow it all again. And the truth? I wasn't close. Not even remotely. The charts were fine. The setups were fine. It was me who wasn't fine. People say trading is about finding a good strategy. They're wrong. It's about finding yourself. I wish someone told me that earlier. I wish someone told me that the real war isn't on the screen. It's inside your head. The first time I blew up, I thought it was bad luck. The second time, I blamed the market. By the 5th time, I started to realize something terrifying. The market was never my enemy. It was just a mirror showing me exactly who I was. And who I wasn't a trader. I was an emotional mess pretending to be one. You can't hide from yourself in trading. Every fear, every weakness, every ounce of greed. It shows up on your P&L. That's the lesson I paid 2 years to learn. There were nights I'd stare at my screen until 3 a.m. Candles flickering red and green, like some cruel heartbeat. And I'd whisper to myself, just one good day, that's all I need. But one good day never fixed anything. Because when you trade from desperation, the market smells it. It hunts it. I wasn't trading setups. I was trading emotions. Revenge trades. Over-leverage. FOMO entries. Cutting winners short because I was afraid of losing the profit. Letting losers run because I couldn't stand being wrong again. If you've ever been there, you know exactly how dark that spiral gets. There's this moment every losing trader hits, where the dream of financial freedom turns into a nightmare of mental prison. You check your account balance, and your stomach sinks because you realize you're not even trading to win anymore. You're trading to feel something. That's where I was. And if you're watching this right now, wherever you are, maybe it's midnight, maybe it's 4 a.m., drop a comment and tell me your time and where you're watching from. Because I want you to know something. You're not alone in this. And before we go deeper into this story, hit that subscribe button if you're serious about mastering the mental game of trading. Like the video if you've ever been through a losing streak. And check the description after this video for my #1 recommended prop firm if you're ready to level up the right way. Now, let's go back to the moment everything changed. It wasn't a strategy tweak. It wasn't a mentorship program. It was pain. The kind of pain that breaks the ego wide open. I remember the trade clearly. Eurist during New York session. Everything lined up. Breakout confirmed. I went all in. 5 minutes later, I was down 6%. I refused to close. I moved my stop. Then again. And again. By the time I finally clicked close, I had wiped 40% of the account. I remember sitting there, staring at the red number, and something inside me snapped, but not in anger. It was quiet, almost peaceful. Like I finally realized, I was never losing to the market. I was losing to the part of me that couldn't surrender. That moment was my breaking point, and also the start of something I never saw coming. Because when the ego dies, clarity begins. You see, for 2 years, I thought trading was about being right. Now I understand it's about being aligned. Aligned with process. Aligned with discipline. Aligned with the truth that you can't control outcome. Only execution. That's when I started doing something I never did before. I stopped trying to make money and started trying to trade correctly. That shift sounds small, but it changes everything. When you stop chasing profit, you start seeing the market as it is, not as you wish it to be. When you stop fearing loss, you start noticing opportunities hidden in uncertainty. And that's when I started journaling. Every emotion, every mistake, every trigger. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't fun. But it was real. I started studying myself. And the more I understood my emotional patterns, the more control I had. Because trading mastery isn't about perfect strategy. It's about emotional calibration. I realized my biggest losses always happened after one type of trigger. A big win. After a big win, I'd feel untouchable. And that's when I'd break rules. That's when I'd size up recklessly, thinking I was in the zone. But it wasn't flow. It was euphoria, and euphoria is just greed in disguise. So I built a rule. After every winning day, I shut the laptop. No exceptions. That one rule alone saved me more money than any indicator ever did. 2 years of losing taught me the one thing I needed to finally win: respect for pain. You can't master trading until you stop fighting your losses. The market will always test your patience, your ego, your self-worth. And every loss is feedback, not failure. I stopped saying I blew it and started saying I learned something valuable. That mindset shift became my secret weapon. And from that point on, everything started to change. Not fast, not easy, but permanently. If you're still here watching this, you're exactly where I was before the breakthrough. Don't quit now, because in section 2, I'm going to show you exactly how consistency started, how I went from daily frustration to emotional neutrality, and how discipline slowly built momentum into actual profitability. So if you haven't yet, subscribe right now, like the video, drop a comment with your country and time you're watching this, and check the description for my #1 recommended prop firm. If you're ready to take your next trade with structure and clarity, we're just getting started. Consistency didn't arrive with a bang. It crept in quietly, almost like I didn't notice it at first. There was no sudden turning point, no magical aha moment. Just small repetitions, tiny acts of discipline that slowly rewired how I saw trading and how I saw myself. At the start, it felt unnatural. My old habits wanted chaos. They wanted thrill. They wanted to chase, to force, to fight the market until I felt alive again. But that's not trading. That's addiction. And for 2 years, I was addicted to emotional volatility more than price volatility. So I decided to detox from my own impulsiveness. I built a new rule. If I couldn't explain why I was taking a trade in one sentence, I wasn't allowed to take it. That one-sentence rule changed everything. It forced me to slow down, to think, to be intentional. And the funny part, when I stopped chasing setups started finding me. I began each morning differently. No charts, no indicators, just coffee and journaling. What do I feel today? What am I afraid of losing? What am I trying to prove? Questions like that sound stupid until you realize your worst trading decisions come from unanswered emotions. Trading isn't hard because of technicals. It's hard because your mind lies to you. It tells you, you can make it back. It's fine to risk more today. You'll get it right this time. Lies disguised as logic. But once you start writing your emotions down, you start seeing patterns. And once you see the pattern, you can break it. I remember one morning, I was down 3 days in a row. Old me would have tried to get it back. But new me? I closed the charts, went for a walk, sat under the sun, reminded myself, consistency doesn't mean winning every day. It means showing up correctly every day. That walk saved my account, because later that day, the setup I would have jumped on, faked out and reversed hard. Old me would have lost again. New me avoided it. That was the moment I realized. Sometimes discipline pays by not losing. You can't always see it in your P&L, but it shows up in your mindset, and your mindset controls everything that follows. Slowly, I started to notice a rhythm forming. I wasn't reacting to price anymore. I was responding to process. When I won, I didn't celebrate. When I lost, I didn't rage. I just recorded, reviewed, moved on. That neutrality, that inner calm, was something I'd never felt before. I wasn't trading to feel something anymore. I was trading because it was what I do. And that shift from emotional to mechanical is when my results finally started to stabilize. But here's the paradox. The more emotionless I became with outcomes, the more emotionally connected I became to discipline. I started falling in love with structure, with the routine, with the quiet satisfaction of following my plan to the letter. That's when I realized discipline is not restriction. It's freedom disguised as rules. Because when you finally stop needing to be right, you become unstoppable. Let me tell you something most traders don't understand. Consistency isn't about your win rate. It's about your reaction rate. Everyone can trade when they're winning. Few can stay calm when they're losing. The market's goal isn't to destroy you. It's to expose you. When you're overconfident, it humbles you. When you're fearful, it tempts you. When you're patient, it rewards you. Every chart is a psychological test. Every candle is feedback on your mindset. That's when I started to respect the market, not as a money machine, but as a teacher. And like any great teacher, it repeats the same lessons until you finally learn. Around this time, my results started to change. Not dramatically, but consistently. Small green weeks stacked up. The equity curve stopped swinging like a roller coaster. I started thinking less about profits and more about staying in flow. And flow, that's the sweet spot. It's when your execution feels effortless, because your emotions aren't fighting your logic anymore. How do you get there? By surrendering to process. By doing boring things beautifully. I used to think successful trading was about excitement. Now I realize it's about peace. Peace came when I accepted boredom. Because boredom meant discipline was working. It meant there was no chaos left to feed. If you want to know what consistency really looks like, it's not fireworks. It's repetition. It's quiet wins. It's sleeping well because you didn't violate your rules. No adrenaline. No gambling. Just execution. And when you stack enough quiet wins, you build momentum. Momentum builds trust. Trust builds confidence. And confidence builds consistency. It's a cycle, but the hardest part is getting through the early stage when nothing seems to be happening. That's when most people quit. That's when the doubt screams the loudest. But I didn't quit this time. Because after 2 years of losing, I knew one truth. If I just stayed in the game, I'd eventually align. And alignment is where profit lives. I started tracking everything. Risk per trade, emotional state, execution rating. I'd look at my journal and ask, how did I show up today? Not, did I make money today? That single question built more consistency than any new strategy ever could. Because the trader who tracks his emotions controls his destiny. The more I tracked, the more I realized my edge wasn't my strategy. It was my state of mind. And that realization is what separates amateurs from professionals. It's wild looking back now. I thought consistency was about skill. Turns out it was about surrender. The more I surrendered to my plan, the more freedom I gained. The more I accepted uncertainty, the more control I had over myself. Trading stopped being this emotional war. It became a form of meditation, a mirror for my growth. Every day I'd sit at my desk, charts open, coffee beside me, and I'd whisper to myself, follow the plan, not the feeling. That became my mantra, and over time it rewired me. If you're watching this right now, and you're somewhere in that messy middle, where you're doing everything right, but results aren't showing yet, trust me, that's exactly where consistency begins. That's the zone where average traders quit, and future pros are made. So don't stop. You're closer than you think. And if you're still here, take a second right now. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a comment with your city and the time you're watching this. And check the description for my #1 recommended prop firm. If you're ready to start trading with accountability, structure, and real discipline. Because in Section 3, we're diving into how those small, consistent wins turned into compounding results, and how emotional neutrality evolved into execution mastery. Consistency turned into momentum, and momentum turned into something I had never experienced before: control. Not control over the market, control over myself. The same setups that used to make my heart race now felt like routine. I'd see the signal, breathe, and execute. No rush, no hesitation, no second-guessing. For the first time, I wasn't trading to escape anything. I was trading because I was in sync with the process. I used to chase certainty. Now I chased execution. My trading sessions became quieter. There was no music, no adrenaline. Just charts, my plan, and that calm voice inside saying, wait, be patient. Let the market come to you. And it did. Because that's what the market does when you stop forcing it. It rewards your stillness. Most traders fail not because they lack skill, but because they can't sit still. They need movement to feel alive. They confuse activity with progress. But progress isn't in the clicks. It's in the silence between them. That silence became my edge. I stopped caring about single trades. I started thinking in batches, in probabilities. 10 trades at a time. 20 trades at a time. One trade meant nothing anymore. That mindset shift freed me. When you stop judging yourself by one outcome, you stop being controlled by emotion. And when emotion dies, execution is born. I remember one week, 5 trades, 3 wins, 2 losses. Old me would have obsessed over the 2 losses. New me didn't even flinch. I looked at the stats. Risk respected. Rules followed. Plan executed. That's it. That's a winning week. That's when I realized profitability is not about accuracy. It's about integrity. Integrity with your plan. Integrity with your process. Integrity with yourself. Because every time you break a rule, you don't just lose money, you lose trust. And when you lose trust in yourself, you can't trade freely anymore. So I made a decision. I would rather take a full losing month following my plan than make money breaking it. And that single decision became the foundation of my consistency. Soon, something strange started happening. Trading began to feel effortless. Not easy, effortless. There's a difference. Easy means there's no challenge. Effortless means your challenge no longer shakes you. I wasn't emotionally charged by wins. I wasn't emotionally crushed by losses. Everything felt balanced. It's like I had found this quiet zone, where my logic and emotion finally agreed on something. Follow the system. That was my flow state. You know you're in flow when time disappears. When you take a trade, walk away, and don't feel the need to check it every second. When the outcome doesn't define your mood anymore. That's emotional detachment. Not apathy, but peace. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about the right thing. The process, not the result. Every professional trader learns this eventually. You can't control P&L, but you can always control execution. That's your real edge. I started treating trading like a ritual. Same wake-up time. Same pre-market routine. Same checklist before every entry. Same journal review before sleep. It wasn't about passion anymore. It was about precision. And when precision becomes your lifestyle, profit becomes your byproduct. I didn't celebrate wins anymore. I celebrated consistency. I didn't count profits. I counted clean trades. A clean trade meant no emotional interference, no impulsive entry, no rule violation. And every clean trade, win or loss, was a victory over my old self. That's when the numbers started to shift. Small, consistent green weeks began stacking. My drawdowns were controlled. My monthly equity curve looked like a steady staircase instead of a roller coaster. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was compounding. And not just my money, my confidence. Confidence born from data, not emotion. From proof, not hope. Because confidence that comes from results fades. Confidence that comes from discipline compounds. And the best part, the market started feeling like a mirror again. But this time, it reflected calm instead of chaos. I'd open my charts and smile. Not because I was winning, but because I knew who I had become. The same market that broke me for 2 years was now teaching me how to stay centered. I learned that the market doesn't reward the smartest trader. It rewards the most emotionally stable one. And emotional stability doesn't come from profits. It comes from identity. You can't act disciplined. You must become disciplined. That's the real transformation. There's a moment every trader hits, where you stop chasing money and start chasing mastery. That's when you're finally free. Because the irony is, when you stop needing to win, you start winning consistently. You stop trying to control outcomes, and you master your response to them. You stop fighting losses, and you start flowing with the probabilities. That's the moment I became profitable. Not because my strategy improved, but because I did. Now I could look back at those 2 losing years and actually feel grateful, because those years built the version of me that could finally handle success. If I had been profitable earlier, I would have destroyed it with the same emotional immaturity I started with. Losing built my character. Discipline sustained it. Consistency proved it. And that's what I want every trader watching this to understand. Your losses are not punishment. They're preparation. The market is not against you. It's shaping you. Every blown account, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, it's all carving you into the person capable of handling profit responsibly. So don't rush the pain. Absorb it, learn from it, and evolve. If you're watching this right now, and you've started seeing small progress, don't question it. Don't sabotage it. Protect it with discipline. Let boredom become your superpower. Let silence become your edge. Because in Section 4, we're going deeper into how that flow of execution held strong as I scaled up my capital and how I handled the pressure when the numbers got bigger. Before you move on, take a second right now Hit the subscribe button. Drop a comment with your country and what time you're watching this. Like the video if you're resonating with this story. And check the description for my #1 recommended prop firm. If you're ready to test your discipline on a bigger stage. We're only getting started. Scaling up was a different kind of test. Not technical, psychological. Because when the numbers get bigger, your demons get louder. You think you've conquered fear until you see 4 zeros next to your open profit. You think you've mastered patience until that profit flickers red for a second. Suddenly, your old impulses come knocking again. The greed, the urge to interfere, the voice that whispers, take it now before it disappears. Scaling isn't about bigger size. It's about bigger self-control. The first time I increased my lot size, everything felt heavier. Same setup, same logic, but the weight of the money changed the way I breathed. It wasn't the trade that scared me. It was the potential. The what if? What if I lose it? What if I'm not ready? What if everything falls apart again? That's when I realized something deep. Emotional pressure doesn't scale linearly with capital. It multiplies. And if your mindset isn't built to handle it, it crushes you. So I treated scaling the same way I treated consistency. One step at a time. I didn't double my risk overnight. I earned it. I made my next level of size a reward, not a gamble. One profitable month, then scale slightly. Stabilize again, then scale again. Each level of size came with new emotions to master. At $1 per pip, I learned discipline. At $10 per pip, I learned patience. At $50 per pip, I learned surrender. Because that's what scaling really is, a spiritual test disguised as financial growth. It asks, can you remain the same person when the stakes rise? If your peace depends on your position size, you're not ready to scale. One day I remember clearly, I was up nearly $4,000 on a single trade. Old me would have closed instantly. New me just watched. Heart calm. Breath steady, following plan, then price retraced. $4,000 turned to $2,500, then back to $3,200, then $2,900. I felt the tension in my chest, but I stayed. Not because I was stubborn, because my system hadn't given me a reason to exit. I followed the plan to the tick. When it finally hit target, it printed $5,200. Not the money, the composure. That was the win. That day, I learned that calm is more profitable than excitement. Because excitement makes you act. Calm makes you observe. And observation always beats reaction. Scaling also forced me to face something I had ignored for years: identity. Who was I becoming through this process? A trader defined by money, or a professional defined by mastery? Because success without identity is dangerous. You can make $10,000 and still feel poor if your peace is tied to numbers. You can make nothing and feel rich if your self-trust is intact. The bigger my profits got, the quieter I became. Because the truth is, profit doesn't change you, it reveals you. And if you haven't done the inner work, it exposes every crack in your foundation. There was a month where I made more than I used to make in an entire year at my old job. People around me celebrated. I didn't. Not because I wasn't grateful, but because I knew the real reward wasn't money. It was control. It was waking up knowing I could face uncertainty without breaking. It was looking at a losing day and still sleeping peacefully. That's freedom. Freedom isn't financial. It's emotional. When your happiness no longer depends on the chart color, you've won the game. I started noticing something else, too. The more I scaled up, the less I traded. Because maturity in trading isn't about doing more, it's about doing less better. Patience became my new form of aggression. Waiting became my weapon. And silence became my strategy. You know that saying, money amplifies who you are? Trading does it faster. If you're greedy, it magnifies greed. If you're disciplined, it magnifies patience. So, when I started making more, I didn't upgrade my lifestyle. I upgraded my character. I reinvested into calm, meditation, routine, fitness, better sleep. Because when your mind is clean, your execution becomes art. And that's what trading is at the highest level, art made through discipline. The chart becomes your canvas. The process becomes your brush. And your emotions? They're the colors you must learn to control. That's when I realized the goal was never to beat the market. It was to master myself so deeply that the market couldn't break me anymore. If you're watching this right now, maybe you're scaling too. Maybe you've turned your small consistency into real capital. Remember this. Don't let your size outrun your psychology. Because if your emotions are still trading small while your account grows big, you'll implode. Scale your mindset before your money. And before we move to the final section, pause for a second. Like this video if this story is connecting with you. Drop a comment with your country and time you're watching this. Hit subscribe if you want to keep growing with this channel, because we talk about the truth behind trading, not the highlight reel. And check the description for my #1 recommended prop firm if you're ready to put discipline to the test. Now let's finish this journey, because in the final section, we talk about what profitability really means. And it's not what you think. Profitability didn't feel like I imagined. No fireworks. No champagne. Just peace. After 2 years of losing, countless nights of doubt, and endless self-sabotage, I finally crossed that invisible line. But instead of joy, I felt quiet. Almost still. Because true profitability isn't a number. It's a state of mind. It's waking up and realizing you don't need the market to feel complete. It's sitting in front of your charts and not needing to prove anything to yourself anymore. It's understanding that the game isn't about money. It's about mastery. The first time I looked at my account and saw steady growth over months, I didn't celebrate. I just stared at it, thinking, this is what peace feels like. And that's when it hit me. All those nights I thought I was losing, I was actually becoming. Losing wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every blown account built emotional muscle. Every mistake taught precision. Every breakdown built discipline. Those 2 years of losing weren't wasted. They were tuition. I paid for my education in pain. And pain was the best teacher I ever had. The real success wasn't turning a profit. It was turning my pain into purpose. Because now, every trade I take carries a message, a reminder of who I used to be. And every day I trade with discipline, I honor that version of me who refused to quit. You see, traders love to chase external validation, bigger profits, more followers, more screenshots. But the real validation comes when you can lose and not lose yourself. When you can walk away from the screen with your peace intact. When you can say, I showed up right, even on a red day. That's what being profitable really means. You've mastered yourself enough to stay whole, no matter what the market does. There was one morning, I remember this clearly. I opened my trading journal, and for the first time, I didn't see chaos. I saw growth. Page after page of data, discipline, patience, restraint. That's when I realized I wasn't chasing trades anymore. I was building a legacy, a psychological evolution printed in real time. And that legacy, that transformation, is what I want for you. Not just profits. Peace. Not just green charts. A green mind. Because profitability without peace is just another prison. This time with more money. But peace with discipline? That's wealth. Now when I trade, it's not emotional anymore. It's sacred. It's quiet. It's mine. The market still moves the same. I'm just not moved by it anymore. So if you're watching this right now, maybe you're still in the losing phase. Maybe you're in the discipline phase. Maybe you're just starting to see consistency. Wherever you are, don't quit. Your breakthrough might not look like fireworks. It might feel like silence. But that silence means growth. That silence means alignment. And alignment always leads to profit. You can't rush evolution. You can only surrender to it. After 2 years of losing, I finally did. And that surrender, that moment I stopped fighting, is when I finally became profitable. If you've watched this entire journey, thank you. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and the time right now. I want to see how far this message travels. Like this video if it hit something real inside you. Subscribe if you're serious about mastering the mind behind the charts. Because this channel is where the market meets the mind. And before you go, check the description for my #1 recommended prop firm. If you're ready to test everything you've learned and trade like a professional. Because profitability isn't luck. It's discipline practiced long enough that it becomes your nature. And once that happens, the market no longer decides who you are. You do.